Welcome to the Whiskey Vault. I'm Daniel Whittington, Chancellor of Wizard Academy, Whiskey Marketing School, and a Level 4 Whiskey Sommelier. You are influencing yourself. When you drink whiskey, you're influencing yourself. This is a video about subjective reality and something you need to be aware of and how you cannot stop it because it is absolutely impossible to stop subjective reality from influencing you. But being aware of it will make a difference. I've been looking forward to this one. It's a little bit old. This is not a new release, but I like Laws from Denver, and I've just been waiting to open this one, and I decided this was the time. Part 1. The whiskey you are drinking right now tastes different than if you were drinking it somewhere else with someone else after a different food and at a different time of day. So, how do you know what you're actually tasting? So let's talk about all the variables. First, sequence or order of drinking. If you started with a beer and then you poured a whiskey, your experience is going to be different. If you started with a rye and now you're drinking a scotch, your experience is going to be different. If you started, haven't eaten all day and then you have your first thing, or it's after a dry week and your first sip, your experience is going to be totally different of that whiskey. Your mood will alter what you taste. Absolutely will alter what you taste. As a matter of fact, it's so real that we at Crowded Barrel used to have rules about what music you could listen to when we were blending and whether it needed to be silence in the room or not. Because if you play aggressive, fast, angry music, you blend differently than if you play jazz. Like listening to A Kind of Blue is going to be different than listening to Metallica. You'll blend a completely different product. Time of day. It's an actual scientific fact that your palate is at its best, sensitivity-wise, roughly 2 hours after you've woken up. And so if you're blending at 10 a.m., you're going to blend something different than if you're blending at 10 p.m., even if you have not had whiskey all day and haven't eaten strong, weird food. Your palate alters throughout your waking hours. The bottle, if you know what you're drinking, you cannot help but be influenced by what you're drinking. The price will change your experience of whether or not you think this should be good or whether or not you're finding an excuse to like it versus really like it. And the room, who you're with, the music, the lighting, the environment, this sort of overlaps with mood, but it has way more to do with just like the space will change things. When I've been at an event I didn't want to be at, I've disliked whiskeys that I normally enjoy. When I've been at events that I'm like really enjoying this, I've found a love of white label, Jim Beam white label that I never realized was possible because it was just the exact right circumstances and it didn't matter what I drank, I was going to love it. So, none of this makes you bad at palate and sensory, it just means you're human. How do you account for that? And the answer is you account for that, and I'm going to give an explanation of that. This is Laws. Laws is I'm going to call them super nerdy distillery in Denver, Colorado, who from the first time I ever heard about them starting, everything about what they were doing was like nerd, nerd, nerd. And I love that because I'm a nerd. And our whole community is often nerds. And so these guys started a distillery. Instead of releasing younger stuff, they waited for 3 years to release their first whiskey. They did local grains. They did various mash bills. They are serious about spirits. And this one specifically is their 8-year-old 4-grain bourbon. Now, I've had their 4-grain bourbon and I like it. It's in the vault. It's a really complex, interesting craft bourbon. I have not gotten to try any of their true age statement bourbons. And so this is my first, and I am excited about that. This is, oh man. Okay. That was weird, but I'm going to make sure I'm being influenced by what I drank earlier. But I immediately got this explosion of botanical black tea. So like if you go to a tea shop and they'll have things like the Blue Lady or sunset on a blah, blah, blah. And what that is usually a base of black tea with a whole bunch of other things blended into it. Tea blends are the source of most tea. And it creates these flavor profiles. And so it's not just pure black tea. It's a blend of teas, right? Even your really simple English breakfast is a blend of teas. But when you start adding botanicals into it, roses and some other spices, or then you get actual aromatic black teas. There's a note in here that was like a jasmine hinted black tea aromatic. Yep, still there. I thought it was just a reaction from what I was doing earlier, but it's beautiful on the nose, but it's very weird. I would never have picked this up and thought, bourbon. There's too much going on. There's too many things happening. It is 60% corn, and you can get that sort of dusty note, but it's beautiful. There's a density to this that's almost like black tea and jam on scones. It's heavy. It's bready. It's dense. But there's aromatic notes that are floating on top of it that are not heavy. They're delicate, but they're floating on top. Like the body is serious, and then the accoutrement around the out is just sort of this flittering, ooh, orange, ooh, rose hips, ooh, jasmine, ooh. There's all these little delicate floating notes. And then the age is giving you that sort of like antique cigar box kind of direction, like old aromatic incense burners in the wood direction. Palate. Wow, that is really soft for a 50%. The palate is much simpler. It's supporting the nose, but it's not a replica of the nose. I would say that the palate carries everything about that nose that's density, but isn't pushing forward any of the delicacy that's on the nose. Ah, that's really good. Man, this has just been a great set of whiskeys I've done recently. I'm just loving them all. I'm going to put a little water in this, and then we're going to talk about how do you correct for or accommodate perceptual reality and stop influencing yourself. The answer is, by the way, you don't stop influencing yourself. You just become aware of it, and that changes things. Which should be a known thing, because we do this in counseling. You know, it's like, I'm really angry. If you can understand why you're angry, you can actually change. Remember, the goal of understanding these things is not to become perfectly objective. That is not possible. It is about lasting and living with self-awareness. So first, palate resets help. So if you are trying to get a more neutral experience, water, plain crackers, smelling yourself. I know it feels weird, but we aim for the elbow because your smell is scent neutral for you. And so a reset isn't coffee beans. A reset is the most neutral thing that you have. And your elbow is inside of your elbow, super dorky. This is the least affected by outside environment. If you're wearing a short sleeve shirt, your clothing and your dryer sheets aren't infecting it. You don't touch things with it like you do with your hands and soaps and grabbing things, because that's not neutral, right? So the most neutral you is an uncovered inner elbow, assuming that you didn't just put on cologne or take a shower with fruity soap. Blind tasting and over time can correct so many of the preconceived ideas. So you aren't going to be influenced by price or by bottle or by label or by brand. But even in a blind tasting, you're still going to be affected by time of day, what you had before, and what mood you're in. So a blind tasting is the closest you'll get to real objectivity, but it's still not truly objective. Write things down, come back to it. What you're going to find over time is you're going to take notes on this thing, and then you're going to try it again later, go back to that page and say different date, same notes, and you're going to find, what did I write the same both times and what changed? What changed is likely either up to palate development or environments. And what didn't change is the more objective of your notes. Return to it. That only works if you come back. So don't just judge a whiskey once and then move on, which, by the way, I am absolutely guilty of because I shoot these for a living, and half the time I review a bottle, that's the last time I taste it for years. But I am also not preparing for a quiz or a program or a school or a certification right now, so meh. But if you are studying, go back to it. Different time of day, different following food, different mood. Check it, take notes, and then slow down. This is a thing I have to do in these videos. It often gets edited out because Mike is a good editor, and that's dead air. But sometimes I will pick up a glass and realize I'm so distracted by trying to deliver a video to you and not sounding like a moron that I'm not actually paying attention to the glass and I'm not actually finding things. And so there's moments in this video where I will pick up something and go, okay, brain, slow down. Forget the lights, forget the camera. What are you smelling? But part of my brain's always aware that there's a red light over here and its clock is ticking. Every once in a while I'll go silent for, I think probably I've never gone for more than 10 seconds, which when a camera is on feels like an eternity. And it gets edited out for pacing, so you don't see it. But I've had that problem in front of a room when I'm teaching, when we're doing blind trio assessments, where I'll pick up a whiskey and I'm aware I'm in a room full of people and there's Psalms in the back and I don't know what I'm just like rushing to notes and I'm not slowing down and being present with the whiskey. And it will sometimes lead me way off track. At one point, I think I talked for several minutes about the beauty of this delicate whiskey and found out it was Canadian Club. The cheapest version of Canadian Club. And I was like, oh, I was not really aware of my own senses. Anyway, the point of this is just like, you can't eliminate influence. We're human beings, right? That's just how we work. And what separates us from the curious drinker who wants to have opinions is that you're willing to be aware of all these influences and you want to find ways to counteract them and try to find your version of reality with any given spirit. And it just takes time and patience. Be gracious to yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. Cheers to you. I'm really glad you're here. I don't care what time of day, who you're around, what mood you're in, or what you're being influenced by right now. For no reason, you should like and subscribe.